This is a Red Bull F1 car being driven in anger on ice. How is this possible? Why is this even a thing? Well, in the words of Martin Brundle, Red Bull can because they did. But what if I told you that this stunt isn't even Red Bull's most spectacular? Not even close. So what does Red Bull's craziest stunt look like? And what stunts are in their top 5? Well, in this video, we've done the heavy lifting and ranked them, giving points for danger, difficulty, and visual appeal. The F1 versus Scrum is your classic man versus machine. An F1 car good for 1,000 brake horsepower per tonne and more than 300 kilometers per hour versus 800 kilograms of world-class rugby player. This is lunacy, man. This sounds dangerous. But how in the Red Bull did they even pull this off? Well, for one, they did a specially engineered Scrum machine and a rugby-inspired flat nose for the F1 car. The Predator-inspired thermal imaging is a nice touch, showing in no uncertain terms the heat energy being generated by BAF's biggest and baddest versus the car tyres. To boot, we're treated to Danny Rick being an automotive hooligan as he yeets it through BAF's very prim and proper Farley training ground. I mean, it's a brilliantly dangerous stunt, nothing less than what you've come to expect from Red Bull. Show me an F1 fan who doesn't enjoy a bit of automotive hoonery, and I'll show you a liar. Red Bull, as it happens, are quite fond of a bit of automotive hoonery, a cheeky donut or two. But how, ask the geniuses at Red Bull, can you make the donut more extreme, more death-defying? Do a few atop the iconic Burj Al Arab, of course, on a helipad 24 meters in diameter, in a car 5 meters long. Well, why wouldn't you? David Coulthard, World Championship jawline and all, serial risk-taker himself, was drafted in specially for this one. The Richard in charge of Red Bull stunt coordination described this as their biggest, most dangerous to date. And this makes sense. I mean, just look at where they're headed. That's really high. 210 meters above the Persian Gulf. So high, in fact, that had there been so much as a moderate breeze, they would have had to call the whole thing off. The morning of the stunt, however, was calm. The helipad was cleared for safety. How they get the car up on the helipad was nearly as impressive as the stunt itself. The car was hoisted by a helicopter on a custom-made frame to keep the car level and account for any weight imbalance. The danger in this stunt though is one of dimensions. There's barely a car's width between a world's first and a tragedy. Because there are no parachutes here, there would be no safety nets or do-overs. The risks were very real, but Red Bull did what Red Bull do, and they did it anyway, executing a death-defying stunt as if it were nothing of the sort, with weapons-grade precision and bomb diffuser calm. Only Red Bull, eh? What the New York to Miami road trip lacks in technical difficulty, it more than makes up for in spectacle. The sights and sounds of an F1 car galloping through unfamiliar city streets is always a visual feast. But New York's city streets, that's a bit more than special. That's top of the heap. As you'd imagine, this was a massive logistical undertaking. It would take months of planning from the Red Bull project team and a significant police presence to make this all happen. But seeing the car bob and weave with every pothole and get a bit tail happy on New York's sodden downtown streets was, in our opinion, worth every second. The Miami portion of the trip is good, but the New York leg is littered with moments that'll leave fans rubbing their eyes in disbelief. From the pit stop on New York's iconic Fifth Avenue to the crossing of the Manhattan Bridge, to the onboard of Checo lining up a New York cabbie, all Fast and Furious style. Dom Toretto would be proud. Aesthetically, NYC to Miami nails it. It's a marketing masterclass of a piece that showcases the only Latino driver currently on the F1 grid in NYC and Miami, cities both heavily influenced by deep-rooted Latin American communities. It's not half bad from Red Bull, that. An F1 car quite literally dancing on ice will never be anything less than spectacular. But so often now have Red Bull pulled this stunt off. At this stage of the game, they've almost made the extraordinary, well, a bit routine. But without a doubt, the granddaddy of F1 snow stunts, and number 2 on our list, the Kitzball Showdown. In January 2016, Red Bull have asked Verstappen to drive an RB7 down the side of a mountain. You just can't get any more insane. Now, as you might imagine, getting an F1 car on a ski slope is no mean feat. How did Red Bull do it then? Via airlift, as you do. The snowy ski slope would pose its own raft of problems. They'd need to fit special snow chains to special snow tyres to prevent the 800 brake horsepower F1 car from sinking into the powdery soft snow. With temperatures below freezing, the team would have to adjust the setup of the car and retune an engine that barely 1 month prior had raced in sweltering 35-degree heat. Despite never having driven on snow before, Max, with otherworldly car control, wowed some 3,000 onlookers as he slalomed down the most treacherous slope in alpine skiing. Take a bow, son. And for number one on our list, well, there were zero other options. It's September 2019, and one of the geniuses at Red Bull has had a bright idea to do a pit stop in zero gravity. Now, the only way you can create a weightless environment is on a plane which ascends to 9,000 meters, then free falls over the Earth's curvature. The plane's acceleration counterbalancing gravity, recreating weightlessness. Unlike the other stunts on this list, this would be uncharted territory. And as you might well imagine, with this comes challenges. So technical is the parabola as a maneuver. Your average rinky-dink passenger plane just doesn't cut to the mustard. For this, Red Bull would need a special plane. And this one belongs to Roscosmos. That's the Russian Space Corporation. And to house half a ton's worth of F1 car, a special set would need to be built inside the plane's cargo bay. And with space at such a premium, in a scene straight out of a Mission Impossible movie, during the tyre change, half the crew would stand upside down. Yep, that's right, on the ceiling. To manoeuvre the tyres, they'd invert the car, fit the tyres, and then finally right side the car. And all this in 25 seconds or less. And whilst this all sounds like great fun, the risks, well, they were real. Not least the risk of getting stuck underneath a 400 kilogram F1 car in the transition back to normal gravity. All told, it will take 6 months worth of intricate planning, and the crew would do 80 parabola flights in total. To reduce the mechanical bumps and bruises of 80 gravity to 0G transitions, the car was lightened and made more robust. Watching the final production, you'd be forgiven for thinking that this is top of the food chain CGI at play here, but you'd be wrong. This is a real life F1 car with a real life Red Bull pit crew floating in a real life cargo jet. It's a choreographed Swan Lake of a pit stop, this, in 0G. A stunt as brave as it is stupid. And that's why it had to be number one on our list. Its uniqueness embodies the no limit DNA that runs so unashamedly through everything that Red Bull does, that impossible is nothing, and that a challenge is worth accepting for no other reason than challenge's sake.
We choose to do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Touchdown confirmed. We are safe now.